If you've been working on your English and feel it's just not improving, this might be the most important video you watch. I'm not joking. In this video, we're going to focus on something that most English learners don't think about, don't focus on, don't work on, and as a result, don't improve. That thing is confidence. Now, in the academic world, that's called self-efficacy. This is your ability to believe that you can do something in a situation. And it has been fairly well proven over and over again in studies. There are a lot of papers that you can read. The result is always the same. A person's belief that they can do something has a big impact on how well they do it. But it's not that simple. So what we're going to do in this video is break it down a bit. We're going to talk about the things that can get in the way of confidence, and then focus on, as we go, the things that you can do to improve confidence or self-efficacy. But first, I think you have to just accept that this is true. Here's a quote from one of the papers. I've read quite a few papers on this. Self-efficacy is a strong predictor of performance in different language skills and tasks. And in other papers, it is one of the key, most important variables in overall success, often surpassing even actual abilities or aptitude in predicting learners' success. Think about that. What does that mean? That means your belief in yourself, if you have that, can be more important in your success as an English learner than how good your vocabulary is, your understanding of grammar, all of those skills. Now, ask yourself why that is. Why that is. I'm not going to give you a clear answer right now because we're going to go through this in parts. But just think about that question. Why is it that your belief in yourself matters more than your individual skills? And as you think about that, let's go through some of the things that prevent English learners from feeling confident, from having self-efficacy. When you're trying to get better at something, it's very important to find the sweet spot. The sweet spot. Now, what does that mean for English learning? This is finding that perfect place where whatever you're doing is difficult, but not so difficult that you feel overwhelmed. And if you can find that perfect spot, that perfect feeling, you're going to improve much faster. So if you're trying to do something that's pretty much impossible, think about it like being a hiker. You encounter a cliff that you have to climb up. Now, some people may be able to climb that cliff. You're just on a hike. You're not experienced with that. So the idea of climbing up this vertical cliff is not going to happen. So that's too difficult. At the same time, if the slope of the path that you're on is like this and you're walking very slowly, enjoying the flowers, you're not going to get the benefits of going on a hike. You're not going to get in better shape. So what you need to do is find a feeling. Now, for a hike, that feeling would be being slightly out of breath, I think. If you want to get stronger, get in better shape from a hike, if the slope is not very steep, maybe walk a little faster. And if the slope is more steep, that's pretty steep, go more slowly. But always be pushing yourself. Always push yourself. And that's something only you can find, that sweet spot. But you have to find it. Because if you don't, you're either going to be not improving because everything's too easy, or not improving because everything's too hard. Once you find that sweet spot, you'll start to notice that you're actually making progress. And when you're making progress, that's going to build your confidence because you'll realize, oh, I can make progress. Before I was just doing this or trying to do this and failing. It's a big part of the reason why English learners don't have self-confidence and aren't making progress. Another very important part of self-efficacy or confidence is how you compare yourself to others. Now, I'm not saying you should never compare yourself to others. I am saying you should be careful how you do that. And be very aware of the social media trap. There is this trap with social media, things like Instagram. This is one of the reasons teenagers are depressed these days. They see people their age doing things way more interesting than they could ever do. Traveling around the world, they have tons of money, their lives are amazing. Now this is a trap because it feels like, oh, that's my peer, and my peer is doing so much better than me, I have no hope of ever having that lifestyle. I'll never get there. And so I feel depressed. The same thing is true for English learners. When you see examples out there of people who are maybe on your path, but so far ahead of you that you feel I may never get there, it's easy to get discouraged. But it's a false impression because they're not your peer in a sense. They are an extreme. Social media highlights only extremes. People who are in the top 1%. You only see the best. And you don't see the majority of people who are probably much closer to where you are. So it's not giving you a realistic picture of how you compare with others. And for that reason, it's easy to get discouraged. So avoid that. And instead, when you're looking for examples, look to those around you. Pay attention to your peers at work, at school, in your life, whatever. Maybe they're really good at expressing their thoughts and organizing their thoughts. Maybe you can learn that from them. You're getting, again, a more realistic picture of what slightly better looks like. And you can use them as a kind of mark on a map to move toward. Because they're not that far away, right? Maybe you can teach them some things. Now, even more important is to use yourself to be able to compare your current self to your past self so that you can think about your future self. And so you have to have some way of evaluating, judging where you are now compared to where you were before. Now, you can do that purely by feeling. I feel like I'm able to do things now that I couldn't do before. Maybe that's how you have conversations. Maybe that's how many misunderstandings you have. You have fewer misunderstandings now than before. So you're seeing progress in very specific ways, right? Pronunciation, grammar. Maybe you take evaluations. Maybe sometimes you do a Duolingo English practice test or something to get a real score. Maybe you ask people around you to give you feedback. You have some way of judging where you are now compared to where you were before so that you can make a picture of where you're going to go, a realistic picture. One of the most common things that gets in the way of building confidence is stressful situations. That could be a simple conversation. That could be the idea of maybe giving a presentation at work. Maybe that's the feeling of taking an exam. It could be anything. We're all different. So the things that make you feel really stressed when you need to communicate in English. Stressful situations are a double-edged sword. Let me explain what I mean by that. If presentations or the idea of giving a presentation is so terrifying to you that you can't even try to give a presentation, then this is going to prevent you from building confidence and improving. Or perhaps when you have a conversation, you feel you did so badly that you never want to try again. Well, your confidence will go down. You won't improve. However, if you're able to get through that, perhaps by trying slightly easier, that's that idea of finding the sweet spot, finding slightly easier versions of these stressful things, right? If you're able to get through that terror, that fear, then what you're going to find is you slowly build confidence in the same way that people who have a fear of spiders eventually lose their fear. That method is called exposure therapy, and it's pretty successful. People who are afraid of heights or afraid of going outside, if you step by step force yourself into those situations very gradually, you can work yourself toward maybe the most difficult thing, and eventually you go straight through it. So if you're afraid of leaving your house, you go out a few steps and come back. And then the next day you go out for 5 minutes and come back. And eventually the fear subsides. So you say a few words in a meeting. That's a kind of presentation, right? You share one opinion, and that's it. The next time you do a little more. These are just examples, but whatever it is that really scares you, that really gives you stress, if you step by step gradually work your way toward the really scary thing, it won't be so scary, and you'll be building confidence all the way up. And once you get through that really scary thing, once you kill that dragon, you will be very confident. You will realize, oh, I can do anything. There's nothing to be afraid of. Now, another way to do this is by building habits. This doesn't work in all cases, but in many cases, especially for things like exams and presentations. If whatever you have to do becomes a habit, muscle memory, then it will be a lot easier to do because you've done it so many times. So if you have a big exam, and every day leading up to the exam for 6 months, you worked on each section and the different question types, when you go into the exam, you'll feel nervous, but your muscle memory, your habits will kick in and overpower your nervousness. For the presentation, if you practice it many times, don't memorize, but practice it many times, maybe do it for some friends, combine that with maybe doing it in front of a few people that you know to get used to that feeling. If you practice that, again, you're going to build up the muscle memory to, when you have to do it on the day, do it pretty well and realize, oh, I can do it. One of the things that a lot of the self-efficacy papers talk about is goals, moving towards something very clear, and choosing the things you will do to move toward that thing. One of the big problems that I think many English learners face is not having a clear goal. or having a clear goal that isn't very realistic. So the idea of being totally fluent. What is your goal? Perfect fluency. Well, first question, what does that mean exactly, right? Second, how will you know when you get there, right? And so having very specific goals will give you a sense of purpose and direction and will allow you to then align all of your effort to move in that direction. This is what I often call having a North Star, right? If you can look at a star very clearly, and it's not a star and it's something that you can actually reach, right? You're looking at it and you think, I can get there in 6 months. Then you can decide what to do rather than just doing random things. Doing a bunch of random things won't move you toward anything. 2 steps this way, 2 steps that way. It doesn't work, right? And you'll find that once you have a clear goal and you're working toward it, what you do today makes sense. And once you've done it, you feel good about yourself. And you think, I can do this tomorrow, and that will get me even closer. Having that idea of moving towards something has confidence built into it. When we feel like we're making progress towards something, we feel better about ourselves. We're less likely to give up on whatever we're doing. And so it's a really important thing. Now, what kind of goals should you have? Well, that depends on what you're trying to achieve. It could be something simple, like, I want to be able to speak for 2 minutes about a topic with no plan without stopping. Great, that's a pretty good goal. That's simple, that's clear. If you can't do that right now, that's not a bad goal to have. Maybe I want to make it more measurable. I want to get something on some exam. Maybe the Duolingo English test or something like the IELTS or TOEFL. There are a lot of online tests out there you can take. You want to get a specific score. Okay, great. Maybe you want to post a YouTube video in English. That's a good one. So my goal is to record and post a video in English about something. It's a little scary, right? But that's something that you can work toward. You have to do some research. You have to think about how you're going to do it, whether you're going to use a script or to follow bullet points. How are you going to express yourself? How are you going to make sure that people understand you clearly? You have to work on pronunciation maybe to make sure it's clear, right? So again, that's a great goal, a great thing to work toward, which is achievable, and it's different for everybody. So find a goal or a few goals that you can work toward, and if you start working toward them, you will notice your confidence grows. Finally, if there's too much structure in what you're doing, especially coming from others, it will be difficult for you to improve and build confidence. So you're in a training program, you're following a course or something, and it doesn't give you any flexibility, any ability to adapt or make decisions. It's going to be difficult to make progress. You need to be able to ask questions. You need to be able to say, hey, can I do this instead of that? You need to be able to creatively think about what you need to do in order to achieve a goal. You have a goal. What are you going to do to get there? Now, it is important to have a plan, and it's actually a good idea to follow a system, follow a program. But just make sure that that program that you follow has some flexibility. It must have some flexibility. So I have a program called the 90-Day Program that people can take to improve their English over 90 days. It's called English Fluency in 90 Days. And in that program, there is a specific series of steps to follow, but there's a lot of flexibility built into it in how you do assignments, in asking me questions on WhatsApp, for example, as you go, if you have difficulty, so that together we can strike that balance between too much structure, which is not good, and no structure, which is also not good. So again, here we need to find a sweet spot. And in order to find that sweet spot, I believe you need to embrace your unique path. Everyone is different. Every English learner is different and on a unique path. And so when you're working toward your goals, it's important to learn what is unique about you, what you should focus more on versus less on. All right, you're taking a pronunciation course. Is it more effective for you to do the shadowing technique? Or is it better for you to listen to individual sounds and master all of the sounds within each word, and then try to maybe record yourself saying those words individually? Because you struggle with specific sounds more than, for example, a whole sentence, making it flow naturally. Well, that might be the same course, but two different learners taking the course in a different way. So it's really important to have someone who can support you through your journey, someone who can actually get to know you and help guide you through the journey. Again, in a collaborative way, right? So that you can say, hey, this isn't working for me. What if I tried that? Would that be a good idea? Or how should I handle this, right? That is a better way to do it than just do exactly the same as everybody else all the time. No, that is not the right way to learn. So let's just quickly recap all 5 things that can stop you from building confidence. If it's too easy or too hard, that's not good. You have to find the sweet spot. If you compare yourself to others and it's not a realistic comparison, that can prevent you from building confidence. Compare yourself to people around you, to your real peers and yourself. Stressful situations can block progress and prevent you from trying, but they can also be a great thing to work toward if you build habits and start small. Unclear goals make learning random. You're moving in all directions, not toward something achievable and specific. And if whatever you're doing to reach those goals is too structured, too rigid, too fixed, you need to find ways to make it more flexible. Make your study plan more flexible, to accept and embrace that you are on a unique journey. So keep these 5 things in mind as you continue on your journey. Check out that 90-day program in the links in the description. I think it's a great way to improve your English fluency. If you haven't done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.